Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Freedom of Movement.
Lovely
Woohoo!
noodly arms. This is a 4th level aberration, the player's handbook for artificers, bards, clerics, druids, and rangers. Governors magic which components a leather strap bound around the arm of or a similar appendage, which is that. What's that a reference to? Will we talk about it, or will YouTube get us banned? It's got an hour-long duration, and you touch a willing creature. For the duration, the target's movement is unaffected by difficult terrain, and spells and other magical effects can neither reduce the target's speed nor cause the target to be paralyzed or restrained. The target can also spend 5 feet of movement to automatically escape from non-magical restraints, such as manacles, and a creature that has it grappled. Finally, being underwater imposes no penalties to the target's movement or attacks.
All right, now this is a spell we've talked about several times. I think it made a few of your worst spells on a few different character lists. This notoriously, you are not a fan of this spell. I think I like it better than you do.
Have you ever seen or wanted to see someone cast this?
Wanted to? Sure, I want to see it right now.
In
No,
a Dungeons and
I don't
Dragons
think
game.
I've ever seen it happen.
Yeah.
But I could see situations where I would cast it.
Like.
All right. Here we go.
All right, we're diving right in. Bob's examples.
All right. Similarly to Mind Spike, I gave an example there. You know you're about to be captured.
So this is the same situation where you blow your allies' brains out. So
well, no, because freedom of movement doesn't do that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But that's where we're starting, and I'm nervous.
It's a step in the right direction. This lasts for an hour. No concentration. That's fun. You all right, I surrender. Maybe you just purposely go and turn yourself in. I surrender. You know you're gonna get manacled. And then, but little do they know, whoosh, you can get out of those manacles anytime you want. So as soon as the guard turns his back, boom, you are in restricted access area and free to go willy-nilly and wreak havoc.
Remember whenever we talked about not gentle repose, feign death? And okay. I was like, if you're ever breaking into a morgue, this is a perfect tool. No. So if you're ever
specifically
breaking into
a morgue.
Prison,
yeah, I could see having to break into prison a lot more often than you need to break into a morgue.
There are plenty of tombs and crypts that you could break into via feign death that I would regularly see in a Dungeons and Dragons game, especially in a Dead Focus one. That's not the point. But the point is that is a very specific niche use case that is doubled up by, I don't know, invisibility? A 2nd level spell that lets you be invisible and then you just go in the unrestricted area?
Yeah, that's a thing you could do.
For half the spell level?
All right, or you double them up. You get escorted in there, get yourself free, then turn invisible. Whoa.
Are they taking the prisoner to where the good stuff? I guess you're trying to break specifically a person out of jail in this context.
Maybe, I don't know. This is as far as I've thought about it.
Okay, that's fair. I think Dimension Door is another really this is very clearly a we bust somebody out kind of plan where you get in with Wild Shape or 24 other abilities and then you grab the person, Dimension Door, and then you're out of there and you are never in danger of being arrested. You're never put in a situation where they know freedom of movement exists, so they have magical manacles. Now that's kind of a dick move for a DM to do, but just thought experiment in a world where magic exists and is well established and stuff like that. I would expect guards of higher level establishments to have something like freedom of movement in mind whenever they're doing their, security.
Okay.
Especially for high priority targets that are 7th level player characters or higher. Now, again, right. I think your use case is still perfectly valid though. That's okay, I could see trying to formulate a plan on getting out of manacles for free because of a freedom of movement.
All right, how about this? You are in a swamp. Everywhere is difficult terrain. Cast this. You got free access. You're moving all around freely. All your enemies are bogged down. Their boots are stuck in the mud.
Have you heard of this spell called Fly?
Yeah, that's level 3.
Sure is. I think freedom of movement reads a lot better than it plays. And I think that's why we often just don't get to see it, is because the text that it gives for no concentration and for its duration, Like it not being concentration technically makes it better than fly in that possible example, right? Where you're not going to get knocked out of the sky whenever you're flying around navigating the bog. However, fly does a lot of other things way better, and it's lower level. So there's a lot of things, like we touched on earlier. Invisibility does the infiltration thing a lot better and is lower level, because it also does a dozen other things besides specifically getting arrested. Like you have other use cases that you can use it in beyond or breaking into a prison. So like I think with freedom of movement, its cardinal sin is that there's so many effects that will give you underwater movement with no issues, that will give you the ability to teleport and get out of enclosed spaces with little issue. You'll see people be able to just make athletics checks to break manacles and stuff like that, right? There is going to be a ton of mundane ways out of the situation the freedom of movement kind of beats. The paralyzed and restrained stuff is like, that'll be nice against ones of creatures. I guess restrained a bit more, but like paralyzed is very, very few unless you're dealing with casters with hold persons and stuff. And then it's okay. So this is kind of countermeasure to those. Maybe. And this all costs you, though, a 4th level spell slot, which is really expensive for a solution to those specific problems in any one of them. Like, if you're not dealing with multiple of those problems, I don't want to spend a 4th level slot because I know we have cheaper ways to do it.
Yeah. But it is an hour, not concentration. That means a lot to me.
It means a lot to me too, Bob. And I have to really talk myself into being like, that is not enough. Like, we could say a 30-hour, no concentration, 8th level spell. That sounds great. And it gives you advantage on attack rolls against chickens. And I'm like, well, is that really that good of a spell if all it's doing is giving me 30 hours of advantage on attack rolls against chickens? Probably not. And I think that's kind of where freedom of movement falls into.
If you're working at a hatchery.
Chickens have 1 hit point. They have an AC of like 6. Come on. You can hit the chicken.
I don't know. Let me see if I can think of another. Keep talking. I'm going to try and think of another one.
I think if difficulty rate were more readily used, and if you're regularly finding that restraints are being put on you, this is an interesting spell to consider. I think it's more of like, it's a spell that on clerics, on druids, I think has probably its most castable state, just because you go into the plan knowing we want freedom of movement for it. You go into the bog knowing, like, bog against something like a hag or a witch that has spells. Then freedom of movement, at least you can considerably will see it do multiple things in that environment consistently without costing you a whole lot, especially for like 9th through 13th level in the mid tiers, right? That's where I think you would probably prepare it as one of those 2 classes. Maybe, very much maybe.
Or if you're going up against a druid on his home turf.
Sure.
They got a bunch of spells that will restrain you or entangle you or slow you down.
And notably doesn't deal with all slows, just difficult terrain. So like plant growth and whatnot get around this, because that's 4 times movement, not difficult terrain.
Oh, bummer. All right, plant
to my knowledge,
kind of what I had in mind.
Yeah, it's the most common one I would expect to see.
No. And other magical effects can neither reduce the target's speed or cause the target to be paralyzed or restrained.
So notably, plant growth doesn't reduce your speed. It makes you spend more of it. It's more of your move, which is different than speed, to get through the terrain.
Sneaky plant
which
growth.
Is really dumb.
Now, you know what? I was thinking good for plant growth. That makes me like it even more.
Good on you, plant growth. You're better than freedom of movement. You get around it. I think I was probably too harsh making this worst of anything. I don't think it's uncastable. I just don't think I guess for bards it's really bad because you have to learn it and you get like 10 spells. For rangers it's really bad.
Bards are the most likely to get arrested a lot.
That's unlucky that this is so bad on them. They can talk their way out of it. They're bards. Artificers, this is bad because again, like that's a really like 4th level spells for rangers and artificers. You're a 13th level character and you're starting. You don't want to spend one of your top tier spells on freedom of movement ever, right? So you need to be a full caster. You need to have 5th, 6th level spells so you can feel like you got other more powerful things to use the slots on. And then maybe you go, okay, I can bank a 4th level slot to give someone a freedom of movement, I guess. Or again, you use it as an integrated part of or deliberately going to find ways to break free of magical restraints. It also requires somatic components, which means if someone binds your hands, you can't use it.
Oh, all right. Yes, this is not something. This is something you have to use preemptively.
Yeah.
in that case.
Just takes it down one notch
Yes.
lower for me.
I think I said that when last time we talked about this, like of all the spells that did not need a somatic component, this is it.
Yeah, and you also have to be holding your spell focus or the leather strap bound around the arm.
Nobody's taking your leather strap.
Maybe you just leave the house with a leather strap bound around like your upper bicep, and you're like,
Wow.
okay, we're gonna be fine. If something bad happens, I just need to make sure my hands can do the somatic components for this.
I'm a falconer.
Sure.
Um,
I think it's probably a 2. I don't think it's very good. I don't think most characters are ever going to find to put it on their sheets. I think even clerics and druids in the situations that they would prepare it specifically for would often find lower level spells do most of what they want better and cheaper. And so I think that's ultimately going to make me not high on freedom of movement ever. But there'll be a couple situations where you'll be like, okay, this is fine here.
Yeah, I think you can probably make situations where this could be cool.
You can make situations where feign death is cool.
Not as many. And
That's
I'll
true.
stand by that.
That's definitely true.
But however, this is a 4th level spell, and it sinfully has a somatic component that takes a lot away from it.
You might be able to still do somatic components if your hands are bound. I just don't know rules as written off the top of my head. So commoners, if someone let me know.
Didn't you say you need a free hand? Oh no, that's for grappling. Never mind.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, you probably can't. But
I would assume that'd be the point of restraining a caster's hands. But again, it may be the rule. We've been very disappointed with the D&D 5th edition rules as we learn more about them.
Oh
so.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll agree with your 2. That you talked me down. Well, you didn't really talk me down. I thought you were gonna give it a 1.
You talked me up.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I feel better. Met in the middle. All right. That was freedom of movement. Listeners, I know you've got better situations that I failed you. Let us know in the comments. Where does this shine? There you go. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.